hope Tzuji's relief work program in the Philippines attract the attention of the local media. We learned a technology developed by the Academia Sinica that can fight off cancerous cells. Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Helen Liao. Thank you for joining us. Following Typhoon Kasanat in 2009, Tzuji volunteers in the Philippines implementing cash for work programs to help local residents get back on their feet. Today, years later, many of these residents have joined Tzuji's ranks in helping out those in greater need. As Tzuji volunteers are now in the worst-hit areas carrying out relief work, their relief work program to help speed up the rebuilding process has also attracted the attention of the local media. Let's take a look.
Program ng isang foundation, ang Chuchi Foundation.
In a news report by Philippines' largest TV station, ABS-CBN, Tzuji is shown providing cash for work program for Typhoon Haiyan survivors.
Tuesday pa, nag-umpisa kami, so I think it's 1 week na.
The news report described how the relief work program is not only preventing the spread of disease, but getting residents to clean up their communities, but also allowing the 16,000 participants to receive cash for their efforts and thus buy daily necessities.
We had to make number plates out of cardboard because we used up all the number cards we brought. So there is a number on this card here. The residents were at first surprised why a group of foreigners would come to help them clean up their homes and even pay them to do it.
With cleaning tools in hand, residents come together to clean up their communities. Though residents lack aid supplies and face a long and difficult recovery ahead, volunteers will continue to do what they can to help return their lives to normal. At a local school in Tacloban City, Tzuji volunteer Edison and his wife are busy recording the names of the relief work participants. Next, Edison helps load aid supplies off the truck. Though busy, the volunteer is moved by the prayer song and shed tears every time the song is played.
I'm deeply moved. Before, I was angry at my wife for going to Tzuji events, but since I joined myself, I have changed completely. Our hearts are united now, and I realize my wife had always been right.
Edison and his wife are both residents of Marikina who joined Tzuji after the flooding in 2009. The volunteer was at first against the idea of his wife joining the Buddhist NGO, but the couple now happily devotes themselves to charity work together. Another volunteer couple also from Marikina is Claudio and Caneti, who are in charge of preparing lunches for the staff participating in the free clinics.
Coming here to volunteer together, we hope to help the typhoon survivors get back on their feet as soon as possible.
Seeing how difficult their lives are and that many lost their lives, I just want to give what I can to help.
Taking to heart the help they once received, these residents have now joined Tzuji's ranks to pay the love forward to those in greater need.
In the aftermath of Typhoon Haiyan in the Philippines, many survivors continue to be in need of medical assistance. To help, on November 22nd, 55 medical staff from Taiwan's Tzuji hospitals and volunteers traveled to the disaster zones to conduct a 5-day free clinic. Meanwhile, to thank the hardworking Philippine soldiers for their dedication, Tzuji volunteers provided them with eco-friendly blankets, consolation cash, and the much-needed emotional support. It is the responsibility of a soldier to protect his country and safeguard lives. Therefore, in the aftermath of Typhoon Haiyan, many soldiers were sent into the disaster zone to help.
Actually, our soldiers are, I can say, they are tough enough because with this event that happened to them, they are also pressured because their families are far away from this area. But they do not surrender. They help the people of this place.
During the relief distribution, upon receiving the eco-friendly blankets and consolation cash, many soldiers finally let go of their pent-up emotions, with some even bursting into tears.
We want to extend our love and care to the hardworking police before the upcoming aid distributions.
And I can see their smile, their faces. So the policemen are relieved by that financial assistance given by Chusi Foundation.
This is the first time that we have received such help from other people from other countries. Thank you so much. We are overwhelmed.
Be grateful to one another. Each other.
Meanwhile, coming home from the disaster zone in the Philippines are 55 medical staff at Tzu Chi hospitals. Many of the medical staff say, although they're back in Taiwan, they are still very worried about the disaster survivors in the Philippines.
Most of the patients show diarrhea and flu-like symptoms. We gave them medication to treat their sickness.
No problem. Is there any pain?
In the aftermath of the disaster, many survivors were injured while cleaning up their homes. To help, services from 6 different departments were offered during the 5-day free clinic.
We were joined by local Tzu Chi volunteers, team of doctors and other volunteers that went into the disaster zone before us. We provided the disaster survivors with treatment and much needed emotional support.
Although the medical staff and volunteers are now back in Taiwan, in the days and weeks ahead, Philippine Tzu Chi volunteers and local TIMA members will continue safeguarding the health of the survivors. To help Typhoon Haiyan survivors in the Philippines, people around the world have been pouring out their love. In Myanmar, at a tea gathering for local care recipients, Tzu Chi volunteers took the chance to encourage participants to make donations to help the less fortunate, while at Taiwan's Tzu Chi Humanitarian Center, DaAi TV staff and volunteers prepare meatless dishes for a charity sale, with all the proceeds going to help the disaster survivors rebuild their homes.
Here at the Tzu Chi Humanitarian Center in Guangdu, employees of DaAi TV and volunteers prepare delicious vegetarian dishes for a charity sale. All of their proceeds will be donated to help Typhoon Haiyan survivors in the Philippines.
All these vegetarian dishes were either prepared prior to the event or freshly made here. We created a special cake which was made from Tzu Chi's instant rice and vegetarian meat floss.
Mixing fresh fruits and vegetables with rice, a creative and delicious rice cake is ready to serve. Some employees also invited their family and friends to join in the cooking, making each dish one full of love and blessings.
My colleagues are good at cooking. They all made some tasty cakes. People in the Philippines will receive this love and compassion.
Other than dishes prepared by Tzu Chi staff, students of the culinary arts of Zhuangjing Vocational High School also made some desserts for the event.
Our teachers and students worked together to make 200 servings of Swiss rolls. All the proceeds will be donated to Tzu Chi.
Actions spoke louder than words, as everyone contributes their share to help the disaster survivors rebuild their homes. Also doing his part to help is Tawaling of Myanmar, who despite his disability still insisted on putting money into the donation box by himself. For him, the joy of helping the less fortunate is immeasurable.
I wish all the Filipino disaster survivors a life free from disasters.
At this month's tea ceremony for care recipients, Tzu Chi volunteers seized the chance to encourage participants to help others in need. Scholarship recipient Itan Darlene therefore donated her allowance to help the Haiyan survivors.
Every day I get around 10 NT dollars allowance. I save 3 NT dollars each day to donate to Tzu Chi.
For the countless Cyclone Naga survivors in Myanmar, they can all empathize with the Filipinos' pain and loss.
I'm sorry to learn of the disaster in the Philippines. I can understand what they are going through. I am happy that I am able to do something for them. I know what they are feeling now because I myself was a victim of Cyclone Nagas. Master Zhenyan says people have to help and love one another. I am happy to have the chance to make a donation, so I traveled 80 kilometers here to contribute my love.
Despite living in difficulty, under the volunteers' guidance, these care recipients are doing their best to help the less fortunate.
also contributing their share to help those devastated by Typhoon Haiyan in the Philippines. Tzu Chi volunteers in Indonesia, Canada, as well as the United States have all mobilized to canvass for donations on the streets. Let's take a look at how these fundraising campaigns around the globe have received huge outpours of love from the general public.
Here in Indonesia, in conjunction with their quarterly blood donation drive in West Jakarta, Tzu Chi volunteers are also fundraising to help send love to those devastated by the typhoon in the Philippines.
Once every 3 months, we will hold a blood donation drive in this community in West Jakarta. Today, besides the blood drive, we are also canvassing for donations for Typhoon Haiyan survivors.
Meanwhile, in Calgary, Canada, to encourage members of the public to give a little of their love, the government plans to donate $1 for every dollar of donation received.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity.
Canada has a large, loving, wonderful, dynamic Pinoy community. They've made such a great contribution to Canada, which is one of the many reasons why we want to give back and help those who are suffering. So everyone is in our prayers. We wish the people of the Philippines and those especially affected by the typhoons.
Thank you. Yeah.
These kinds of disasters all over the world, and how quickly Tzu Chi members become active to help out. And to me, there's no organization that demonstrates more compassion than the Tzu Chi.
In Northern California of the United States, Tzu Chi volunteers stand in front of a Chinese supermarket to canvass for donations and receive positive feedbacks from the general public.
The Philippines is a strong country because it withstand the damages. About the relief goods, well, I want to say thank you, especially yours, because it really gives a big help to our country.
Tzu Chi volunteers around the globe all hope to contribute their share in helping typhoon survivors in the Philippines on the path to recovery.
The most common treatments for cancer both in Taiwan and worldwide involve chemotherapy and radiation therapy. However, such methods are most often only effective for patients with early stage cancer and will also kill off healthy cells in the body. Thus, the medical profession has long sought to develop a treatment which only targets cancer cells without harming normal cells. In this direction, the Academia Sinica have recently developed a new type of anti-cancer technology, whereby sugar molecules from the surface of cancer cells are synthesized into antigens. Such antigens then allow the body's immune system to produce antibodies which can fight off cancer cells.
Inside this Academia Sinica laboratory, sugar chips are being mechanized, and each probe contains different sugar molecules.
Once we have synthesized the sugar molecules on the surface of the cancer cells, we then use this machine to arrange the glycosylated molecules onto this glass chip.
Each sugar chip contains thousands of sugar molecules, and with just 1 drop of blood, one is able to conduct an analysis.
This method of detection can determine whether the patient's immune system has antibodies to fight cancer cells, and depending on the specific structure of the sugar molecules, we can determine the type of cancer.
Researcher at the Academia Sinica, Wu Zhongyi, says cell surfaces, even cancer cells, are coated by sugar structures known as glycans.
These uniquely expressed sugar molecules found on the surface of the cancerous cells through synthesis become antigens and developed into a vaccine.
Using sugar molecules as the basis, the Academia Sinica has developed 2 types of cancer vaccines, one for prostate cancer and the other for breast cancer.
Right now, there are no vaccines available which target cancer cells exclusively. There are, however, HPV vaccines which protect against infections that cause cervical cancer.
Unlike other antiviral vaccinations, carbohydrate-based vaccines for breast cancer may be one of the world's first vaccines to target cancer cells directly. With this new development, producing a drug which can inhibit cancer cells will become relatively feasible in the future. Current chemotherapy and radiation therapy, on the other hand, make it difficult to target just cancer cells without harming normal cells, and such treatment is usually only effective during early-stage cancer.
A tumor cannot be rid of entirely just with chemotherapy, and for this reason, we have developed targeted drugs. However, targeted drugs are currently only effective for treating chronic myelogenous leukemia. For lung cancer and breast cancer, these drugs are still incapable of treating the cancer completely.
Medical research shows that carcinogens contained in food and drink is the main trigger of cancer in 1/3 of patients. Smoking, excessive exposure to the sun, and excessive drinking are also among the other high-risk factors.
Paying more attention to our lifestyle and dietary habits are some of the measures we can take to prevent cancer.
Early detection of cancer greatly increases the chances for successful treatment and survival. Tomorrow, we take a look at the various stages of cancer and the methods of treatment available at each stage.
According to the staff at Australia's settlement centers, the most common problems new refugees face are communication and personal relationships, while the ability to speak the language does not guarantee a quick adjustment, as refugees still face cultural differences. Next to me, Shahida Kazmi, who has been granted permanent residency and is able to work. However, finding a job has been a different story.
You cannot feel this pain. And front of the daughters rape the mother, you cannot feel this.
Shahida Kazmi worked in Pakistan in a society where men are valued more than women, and her master's degree became her biggest liability. Her job at the United Nations led to her being attacked by males from her hometown and thus forced her to escape, leaving her 2 daughters behind.
They took my freedom. I can't go out from the house, I can't go out from the home, but my ex-husband make me more problem inside of the house. They want to kill me. Why? Because I earn too much money, work with the UN, with a different organization.
The road to safety was not easy. Kazmi stayed in Indonesia for 2.5 years before receiving legal refugee status from the UNHCR. With her current husband and daughter, she was granted residency in Australia. However, in this country of affluence, daily living expenses can get costly.
No, I'm not going to any restaurant. If you go to restaurant, buy some like a food is very expensive for one person. This is baby cot from government.
The house came furnished courtesy of the government of Australia, along with monthly subsidies of over $3,000. However, half of that is spent on utilities and rent. Kazmi's husband is not fluent in English, thus the family's finances are grim. With her daughter in tow, Kazmi often heads out to use public computers to look for a job. Sending out countless resumes without avail.
You don't have experience of Australia. Every single, when I send in my resume, sometimes I'm very depressed, and I very feel I'm useless in my life, because I don't like to take money from Centrelink. I don't like to direct give my life.
Many refugees have skills, they have been qualified, they have worked overseas. Some of them are doctors, some of them have no qualifications, but they've worked in agriculture, or they've maybe done sewing or had some sort of a skill. Yes, there are barriers that people have to face. Some of it's in the colour of the skin.
So she had to have operations in the hospital.
There is still no job in the horizon for Cosme, but at least she is safe, away from the nightmare of her past. Encouraged by Tzu volunteers, Cosme often participates in various charity events, acting as a translator, giving selflessly to society.
Someone kill me.
Although Cosme's new life is heading in the right direction, yet still, her heart may never be whole again.
I'm missing my daughter.
On December 14th and 15th, Singapore Tzu volunteers will be putting on performances of the musical adaptation of the Water Repentance Sutra. In our next report, let's meet some of the onstage volunteers who overcome mental and physical barriers to join the performance. To help her practice for the upcoming sutra performance, Tzu volunteer Zhou Chunhua, who is unfamiliar with Chinese, has written pinyin besides each character.
At first, I didn't understand the meaning of this phrase. After I did some research, I realized the word tan means greed. That's why I wrote the word greed besides the word.
Other than overcome language barriers, Zhou Chunhua, who also has difficulty hearing, has had to wear a hearing aid to be able to follow along with the music.
It will be impossible for me to chant the sutra if I can't follow along with the music. When learning the sign language, I always take a peek at the Tzu brothers or sisters beside me. When they raise their right hand, I will raise my right hand. When they move their left foot to the front, I will do the same. That's how I learned all the movements of the performance.
Inspired by senior volunteers' determination, PhD student Lin Zhenquan, who once thought of quitting the performance, has decided to pick fewer courses this semester in order to focus on the performance.
Seeing everyone's hard work has encouraged me and given me a lot of strength. Many senior onstage volunteers are not great at following the tempo of the performance or the sign language, but all of them still try their best.
The upcoming musical adaptation is the largest event hosted by the Tzu Singapore chapter to date. To make sure the performance goes smoothly, onstage volunteers have been practicing on a regular basis.
This time we need to encourage more than 1,000 people to join the sutra adaptation. It will be impossible for us to put on the performance if we don't encourage those around us to join in.
As the sutra performance is just around the corner, 1,008 onstage volunteers are seizing every opportunity to practice, as they hope to put on performances that will inspire those in the audience to repent for their past mistakes. We go to China at the end of the show. Tzu volunteers were invited to attend a charity sale organized by a shopping mall at the Suzhou Industrial Park. During the event, volunteers seized the chance to promote environmental concepts to passers-by. We will leave you with these images. Thank you for watching DaAi Headlines. Goodbye.